Hey, it's Chris Loud. In this 15-minute warm-up sketchbook painting exercise, I'm going to show you how to paint quick and easy clouds in a minimalist landscape. I've been planning on working on a larger landscape painting and realized it's been a little while since I've painted clouds, so this 15-minute warm-up was a great opportunity to practice. And although I was able to pull it off in the end, you'll see when I start working on the clouds that I was in fact out of practice. The secondary goal was to work on layering my paint, especially in the clouds and then in the foreground. But since this was a short warm-up, I didn't use a lot of thick paint. I did at times bring out a hairdryer and dry the paint that I had down, and I did cut that out of the video. So right now I'm just starting with an underpainting, trying to get kind of a base colors down for the sky and then the foreground, and I'm using a paper towel to wipe away a little bit of the paint in the sky just to give a little bit of character to that sky before I start working on the clouds. And then in the foreground I'm starting to work on some layers with alizarin crimson, a mix of alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and white, titanium white. So the colors that I used for this painting were cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow medium, Payne's gray, and titanium white. And then I really only used Filbert brushes from, I think a size number 2 up to a number 10. And a paper towel and then my finger to blend a little bit. And so as I'm sure a lot of you know, the sky is a lot lighter closer to the horizon line. So I'm just working right now with a little bit of cerulean blue and a bit more titanium white in the foreground. And smearing it with your finger helps you get a little bit of variation so it looks a little bit like clouds in the distance. So you get a little bit of depth already just doing that blending. And here I'm starting to get a little bit of darkness kind of at the base of the clouds, just randomly kind of hitting some areas in the sky with a little bit of Payne's gray, cerulean blue, and titanium white, just to get some of the darker spots of the clouds. And then these Filbert brushes, I think this is a number 4 that I'm using right now, are great brushes to blend with and work with the clouds and getting just kind of some random shapes in there. You get a lot of clouds that have these billowing areas, and that Filbert brush is a great way to kind of portray that in the clouds. And the darker portion of the clouds that I had just put down was just a little bit more Payne's gray in that mix. And I continue to remember not to paint out my darks, so I keep coming in and at the bottom of the painting try and keep working in some alizarin crimson and a little bit of alizarin crimson and yellow ochre. And you can see the yellow is getting a little brighter, so I'm starting to add a little bit of cadmium yellow into the mix here for the foreground. But I try and bounce between the ground and the sky just to give each of those a little bit of time to dry, plus just to not sit in one spot and keep playing and overpainting in one area too long. So clouds have quite a bit of variation with values, and so that's what I'm working on here, is just really getting some different mixes of the Payne's gray and titanium white with a little bit of the cerulean blue, not a whole lot, and just kind of playing at this point. I wasn't going off of an image or anything with this painting, just kind of making it up as I went along. So you can see with my brush there, I'm just kind of starting to drag it around a little bit and just hitting some spots and seeing what happens. Another thing that you'll notice with a lot of clouds, if you really look, is you'll see some variations in colors. So I was adding a little bit of yellow here. I don't think I quite got the color on that right. I was a little too yellow. I needed to mix a little bit more of the Payne's gray and titanium white with that. But again, it's practice. I'm just playing and having fun at this point, and continue to just see what clouds are going to appear in the sky as I'm playing. I'm really kind of holding my brush very loosely and just kind of tapping it around a little bit and dragging it around. Almost just kind of scumbling across the paper. Now I'm bringing in a little bit of that sky color, titanium white and cerulean blue, and trying to shape the clouds just a little bit. And these Filbert brushes, like I said, I think that was a number 4 that I was using there, or using here, it's actually one of my favorite brushes to use in any paintings. It's very small, so if you're using it, or if you're doing a larger painting, it's something I might bring out for some detail work. But on one of these 15-minute paintings where I'm doing a 6x8 or an 8x10 in a sketchbook, it's a great size to just play with and still get some detail work out of it, but you can do a lot more with it in these sketchbook paintings. Especially if you're working on shapes, it's a great tool and a great brush to make shapes with. But let me know in the comments if you paint clouds, or if you ever have painted clouds, and if there's a certain technique you use. I know I've also painted clouds with a blending brush to get some very soft, kind of wispy clouds, and that's a fun technique to use as well. So far, I think using Filbert brushes to do clouds is my favorite. But let me know in the comments if you do that, or if you do clouds, what techniques you use. I've seen people use paper towels. I've seen them use washcloths and rags to get some interesting clouds as well. And that horizon line, although I do fix it at the very end, I could never quite get that straight. I always looked like it needed a little bit of work. The ground that's furthest away near the horizon is usually the lighter color, so I keep painting light up there and then adding a little bit of layer of other colors and darker colors, and then going back over it just to try and get a little bit of character to the ground close to the horizon. Right now I'm just putting some kind of little focal point in there. Could be a barn, could be a farmhouse. I really didn't have anything in mind. I was just putting some paint down just to get some interest down, and I figured the viewer can decide what that is in the background there. But you can see I'm still working on layers here, both in the background and the foreground. But my thought when I started this was fall, working on more of an autumn, maybe a autumn landscape in kind of farmland or something. Eastern Colorado or Kansas, something like that. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, and I do a lot of other techniques with these 15-minute warm-up videos, feel free to subscribe. I think this is about the 15-minute mark here coming up. And I decided when I was done with it, I kind of looked at it and really was not pleased with the clouds. So you'll see I will kind of, I don't want to say start over, but I'll take some of these clouds out. And the result, I think, ended up working much better. Again, looking at those clouds when I'm painting this, I'm thinking I need to get some more darks in there. So I'm starting to work a little bit more of that Payne's gray and titanium white. And the other thing with sky, I'm sure most of you know this already, but the sky is usually a lot bluer and darker at the top, as opposed to the at the horizon line. So you can see that the top portion of this painting is a little bit darker in the sky. But I used to do a lot of landscape paintings and have kind of stopped, so I'm going to try and get back into doing a few more landscapes. But here's where I decided that those clouds needed to go, and I needed to rework some of this. So I think the really positive thing out of doing this is it allowed me to kind of go in a direction I wanted to go and kind of react to what I was seeing on the page, but also it inadvertently created a little bit of depth to the sky and the clouds. So you'll see here when I put in some of the clouds in the distance, it kind of really worked out for the better. I'm just trying to bring that one cloud up a little bit and extend it a little bit more. Here I'm just trying to do as random as I can. So putting the brush down, turning it a little bit, shaking it a little bit, just trying to get some paint down and letting the clouds kind of appear themselves. As you look at clouds, you'll notice that there's just a lot of times little areas where the sun's hitting it, and that's what I'm working on here. Just a few highlights in there. And although I don't really use just plain titanium white in these clouds much at all, on these highlights I am just putting straight titanium white down, just very lightly. And I'll also put a couple of recommendations for some other landscape warm-ups that I've done that I recommend checking out. If you haven't seen those, I'll put those at the end of the video and in the description. I'll also put the acrylic paint colors that I used in the description as well, if you're interested in seeing what those were. And that is a round that I'm using there. There's a tiny little round for some details on the horizon. Again, I think that was actually a watercolor brush that I had laying around. So feel free to leave me questions or comments when you're done watching this, and I'll get back to you. So here's the final painting. So thanks for watching, and keep on painting.